or comment online on our stream at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. It's 4 p.m. Mountain Time, and that means it's time to talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages we're up on these days, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or twitch.tv, Andrew J. Polk. However you're able to see us, tune in, participate in the show to your level of satisfaction is the right place for you to be as we continue our dual missions to, of course, have live local talk radio here in the Borderland, because damn it, I think we deserve it. And also to, of course, talk about the things that affect us here, because no one else is ever going to have that conversation. As much as we get told a lot about how we feel or how we maybe should feel or anything along those lines, it's never exactly the same, nor necessarily representing our interest of people who live, work, play, raise families, etc., and do all those things right here in the Borderland. And so talking about a bunch of those sets of issues today and a couple of different facets, including pull back to school. Yeah, if you've been wondering about the traffic and all of that stuff, no, there's not suddenly just a ton of people materializing. It's back to school and all that comes with it. As we have Ida Beza Gardner with the high and the wave. Thanks to you for tuning in, with also the Manda Mankanda over on the Twitch stream. Howdy to you as well. So back to school brings with it a lot of hopefulness and also hassles and even hazards. So getting a little bit more in depth, particularly with some, frankly, personally shocking numbers from our news partners at KFOX 14 from the local school districts on the amount of referrals or just other actions being taken, particularly in like the levels it's happening at. I'm not even just talking about the amount, but the different school divisions. Like high school, vaping is one thing, not going to call it good, but when we start talking about middle school, or technically even a little bit before, that starts getting into, wait, really? At least for me, territory. So what those numbers show. So as I have Marky Mandingo joining us, good afternoon to you as well. And then, of course, other things going on in some, with also back to school season, notices about expectations for that whole tax-free weekend coming up. We'll delve into that here a little bit, and the information being put out by Border Patrol, among other things. Also, of course, when talking about children and issues going along with it, our interview today with El Paso Children's Hospital CEO about what their major efforts are, new things coming for that, as well as the continual overcoming of previous challenges or issues happening or surrounding, including coverage I've done in previous years for the hospital, and other reports coming in as well, including a Marky Mandingo saying wrestler still a traffic jam around 7:20 a.m. That sounds about right. Of course, there was the and actually drove that section myself, not at that point in time, didn't have cause to be out on the roads, thank goodness, at that point during the day or in that area, but went through the now shifted lanes area there on I-10 as you start approaching the New Mexico state line. And it's, it's not fun. And the ramps are a little bit confusing right now. I mean, my first time on it, I'm sure, as I've done it. If I did a few more times, I'd get the hang of it. But it's definitely different, constrained, and not quite a fast-moving process at the moment. It goes from one lane to two lanes, back to one lanes in certain areas. So just, if you're going to have to go through there, particularly if anyone's out on the roads there right now dealing with this, in which case my sincere condolences, and please pay attention to the road, because the amount of stops, starts, and even, construction and or roadway maintenance or barrier, better way to put it, vehicles, putting out and laying out things. It was just a whole situation, and I'm surprised I made it here to the station at all. Not from like a safety perspective, but not that I'm still stuck there. Okay, maybe not quite that bad, but kind of at certain points you start thinking about, is this my life now? Is this just where I live? Is this where the rest of my days will be spent? Again, maybe a little melodramatic, but still, it's a little messy, and I'm sure at this point in time, and when we start getting to those rush hour times, not going to be fun in either case here. And Amber Bond actually chiming in on the whole vaping issue, saying had an issue with fifth graders having vapes on campus as a sub last year, and that's some of the shocking numbers. So let's dive straight into that. We mentioned yesterday some of the reporting going on in the community, particularly from El Paso Matters on their limited series going on through, I believe, tomorrow, on just vaping issues, both the legality of it, how THC vaping, super illegal, felony charges for it here in Texas. So don't think that, well, it's just a vape, right? Very, very wrong. But also the potential health implications coming from this. And so just looking at the trends And yeah, RJ saying, wow, those are 10-year-olds, right? Yes, that is it. And so from the article title from our news partners at KFOX 14, El Paso schools combat soaring youth vaping trend amid surge in THC cases. And it's a pretty extensive one. And they get really in depth. And this kind of thing that I like because it can sink your teeth into and really get into the numbers. And so what is being seen here is that, well, the first line of it, school districts and the El Paso Juvenile Department are seeing an alarming rise in vaping among kids between the ages of 10 and 15. Yeah, that's right, 10 and 15, which my first implication of thought was, okay, so that's middle schoolers. Like high school, again, high schooler is one thing. At a certain point, I'm like, okay, that's dumb, but like y'all starting to like be adults and make your own choices, even if they're very badly informed. It's another thing for like middle schoolers. That hit me differently personally. Remember where I was back in middle school and thinking like they're doing what with the who now? And so yeah, there's Mark Mandingo putting it a different way. Let them learn an expensive lesson. When they graduate to cigarettes, they'll be spending $10 a pack. I have no doubt about that, but it's not necessarily the same straight pipeline that I guess it could conceivably be. I mean, I know more people than I probably should that do both, frankly, and wouldn't call that, and they've frankly have been reaping both the financial and personal health issues that come along with this. But when it comes to, kids, and don't think this is just about, all the fancy flavors, though it is noted that they come in all shapes and sizes, and how as much as you would think, like, okay, I often tell people, like, be involved in your kids' lives because to expect anyone else to be more than you are, it doesn't make sense. But it can even be in some of these cases that people from our news partners at KFOX 14 interviewed, and that the school districts have been putting forth, saying the parents may just not know the stealth aspect of this, about looking like, again, like I was talking about yesterday, like a largest flash drive or even integrated into like hoodie strings. Yeah, that's a thing apparently. And so the numbers here, let me get to the numbers here, that in El Paso school districts from 2019 to 2023, according to numbers gathered by El Paso County, however many students you think, how many cases specifically there may have been, the number actually since 2019, 1,464 student vaping cases just referred to the juvenile department from El Paso school district. So these are the ones like advancing on, not your, okay, I'm taking it away from you, or hey, you're not supposed to have this, or even like probably in school suspension, but specifically going to the juvenile department. So progressing that far. In this case, from the numbers, most coming from Socorro ISD with 566 of those. Next up, EP ISD with 407. Then Isleta, Clint, Canutillo rounding out the major numbers with 305, 130, and 29 respectively. And then Fabens, Anthony, and San Lazario also on the list, but at 10 or below in those cases. And, well, there's, again, some of the misconceptions that come along with this. John Browston saying, especially marijuana vapor. See, here's the thing. I know that anyone who has been out and about on the street or been in a particular college situation may have certain ideas about what things smell like when it comes to marijuana, pot, and the smoking of it specifically. But when we start talking about vaporizing, it's not a burning process. It's a completely different way of it working. So you may not have that arguably very familiar in some cases. I mean, the amount of times I've been like, man, would a skunk come through, and or worse. But point is that it may not have that associated with it, making it that much more. I mean, it may have like strong candy, fruit, or other flavors mixed in with it, but still the THC in it. And that's, again, where the serious felonies come along here. True to that, going to previous yesterday, you're talking about what about those ad campaigns with smokers who now have those voice boxes, making them talk like robots, with half their mouths removed due to cancer. That doesn't scare kids straight. I think this is me kind of maybe trying to assume certain things, but the way, at the very least, I remember when vapes were first coming around, it was well, you don't have that. You're not burning something. Again, the whole water vapor debate. And let's be honest, it's a marketing line that doesn't really bear out that way. But the idea of no, it's vaping. I think there's an element of like it's safer. I'm not saying it's like a whole, the way, light cigarettes, they're better for you, or things like that. But there are different conceptions that go along with it. So sure, A, those should probably make a comeback, and B, like there may be ones they could do with, I don't know if it could be as impacting as the whole voice box thing that you're talking about there, but the, people who have had the very serious medical complications that have come from this, the popcorn lung or the other things. I mean, and also, yeah, RJ saying kids are invincible. I was. Yeah, there's that whole, it's not going to happen. No, that's old. Like, those were all old people, right? In those commercials or those kind of concepts. Like, yeah, maybe we need another This Is Your Brain on Vape type series to come along with this. But the idea that, yeah, it's fine, it's not hurting anyone, it's not even smoke, like all of those kind of concepts end up coming along with this is the implications that I get from this in any case, and that younger students vaping as much as the older ones. Some of the sites from the article there, and specifically, they are citing from one of the school district officials saying specifically, Emily Dawson, the Assistant County Attorney Juvenile Trial Team Chief. That's a mouthful. Assistant County Attorney Juvenile Trial Team Chief. That oversees juvenile prosecutors who work for the county attorney's office, handling the hundreds of vaping cases they've been seeing recently. So as much as I gave you some of the 2019 on numbers, it's still continuing on. And so according to them, they do have 10, 11, 12-year-olds who are getting arrested for vaping THC or being in possession of THC vapes. So yeah, this is a thing and this is happening. So, and it's been in increasing numbers. So specifically, like they do have a breakdown from our news partners at KFOX 14 between the different school districts that the number of school referrals for vaping for EPISD, 0 in 2019 and 2020, 20 in the next year, 2022, 48. And then this year already, I mean, we're in the new school district and the end of last year. So this is done by calendar year, not school year, 187. And similar numbers can be seen from, like, again, Socorro ISD. They had a 27 in 2019 and 2020, and 2020 and 2021. So they do it by school year there. 10, so it was technically a dip, but then coming back strong, 2021 to 2022, 118, and for 2022 and 2023, 136. So it's continuing on, and even actually in the YISD, and this is one of the more interesting sets of number, they only really started keeping track last year. So the referrals they saw for the last school year, 983, and of those, 386 of them coming from middle school. So they do note, again, our news partners at KFOX 14, not as many expulsions happening over this, not many kids getting expelled, but that there's going to have to be solutions, educations, and there actually is a new Texas House Bill 114 that takes effect September 1st and says, quote, mandatory to place a student caught vaping into a disciplinary alternative education program. This is for anyone that possesses, uses, or is under the influence of marijuana on or within 300 feet of property of a public school or while attending a school-related or school-sponsored activity on or off property, with an authorization for the classroom removal and DAEP placement of such a student. So, yeah, it's serious, and it's an increasing problem. So, and this is another one of those misconceptions between, frankly, the forms of marijuana here that I don't think I got explicitly yesterday, but noted by, again, that juvenile prosecutor trial chief. I'll say the full title here again in a second. Traditional leaf marijuana is a misdemeanor offense in Texas. Possession of a THC vape is a felony offense. So literally, it is a whole further degree of it. And so, again, knowing your kids and being active in their lives is a good way to do it. But even then, one of the things noted in the article is that some of the parents that are having the referrals sent about this and other kids getting in trouble for it at school said they had no idea that their kids were doing this because, again, it can look like a flash drive, hoodie strings, cell phone size, like those type of ways, and even down to technically, again, elementary level with your 10 and 11-year-olds can get very serious indeed. Now, it's not all doom and gloom when we're talking about the start of the school year, as among other things, we do have and this is one of the little, I guess, messed up things when we have the earlier starts of the school year now, is that the Texas back to school sales tax holiday is coming up this weekend, August 11th through the 13th. So everyone out there or just looking for deals, make sure to mark your calendars. But there is, and locally, CBP in our area have released a statement saying expect longer border crossings and trips coming along with this. with specifically the CBP El Paso director, acting CBP El Paso Director of Field Operations, Ray Provencio, saying it should really come as no surprise to anyone that shopping centers will be full, parking lots crowded, and border crossings busy during the tax-free weekend. So keep that in mind. And definitely expecting a lot more traffic coming this particular weekend. So there's more coming and more going on with the border as well, including a pursuit that was headed south, ending at the Isleta port of entry. Apparently some better communication. It seems like not much detail out on what exactly the incident was, except from some video from our sent to our news partners like, hey, Fox 14 of a dude being taken into custody and a lot of officers at the port of entry running around on the U.S. side of things. So maybe a little bit more of a response than previous, as there has been that at least one recent time in recent months anyway, where someone made it all the way across into Juarez, but then was detained on that side of it. And maybe a ever so slightly overzealous state trooper also involved in that in the continuation into there. But in any case, lots of stuff going on with the border and again with kids right now. And so that'll lead us to our interview for the day after we take this break. Going to be talking with, had the opportunity to talk with the president and CEO of El Paso Children's Hospital on the many things that they have going on. And we'll probably be talking with them more in the future about some of these other medical issues. But what are some of the things going on in preparation and development with the hospital, as well as the continuation of overcoming some of those previous issues and concerns people in the community have had? So we'll be doing that interview after this break. You are again tuned in to Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Stay tuned. Whole lot more discussion about the things going on and affecting us here in the Borderland after this break. Here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
I-10 westbound traffic is slow going to the Upper Valley. That Artcraft exit, by the way, is closed off the I-10 West. That's causing delays back to red with 10-minute delays. 9-minute delays on the I-10 eastbound Vinton down to red. A stalled semi on the left shoulder, Memorial Highway northbound at Montana, and an accident reported eastbound Montwood at Treywood Drive.
This report is sponsored by Turn to Supports TX.org. Life can take a turn for anyone. And if it has for you, remember that there's so much for you to turn to. Everyone needs supportive people and healthy outlets in their lives so you don't have to face hard times alone. Visit turntosupportstx.org for the help that's right for you.
In this week's Marketers Report, Chris Brandt, Chief Marketing Officer at Chipotle Mexican Grill, weighs in on the power of audio.
We've used audio to reinforce what we're showing on TV, what we're showing in other digital channels. When your priority is driving reach, boy, everybody seems to listen to the radio.
As the #1 audio company, iHeartMedia gives marketers access to the audiences, conversations, trusted influencers, insights, and data you need to grow. If you're a marketer, go to iHeartResults.com.
There are choices that can change your life.
Like the choice to start routine colorectal cancer screening at age 45.
It's one of the most common cancers for women and men, and it doesn't always have symptoms.
But there's good news. Routine screening can catch colorectal cancer early and even prevent it.
And there's even better news. You have screening options.
Make the choice to put your health first. Talk to your doctor about your screening options, or visit cdc.gov/screenforlife for more information.
Hi, I'm Burt Ward, Robin from TV's Batman, inviting you to feed your dog natural, non-GMO, Gentle Giants dog and puppy food. Dogs eating Gentle Giants and following our special feeding and care program are living as long as 27 healthy, active years with a wonderful quality of life. Holy wow, 27 years! Think of all the extra years you could enjoy with your dog at Target, H-E-B, and stores near you. Try Gentle Giants cat and kitten food, too.
There are more identity threats than you realize. Even if you monitor your credit, only a little personal info needs to leak out, like your social security number or password,
or you to become a victim.
LifeLock alerts you to threats you could miss. If your identity is stolen, a dedicated U.S.-based restoration specialist will work to fix it. No one can prevent all identity theft or monitor all transactions, but everyone can save up to 25% off their first year with promo code NEWS. Go to lifelock.com.
Teens in foster care will love you, even if you don't know the lingo.
Dad bod, noun. The result of the occasional donut, always washed down with confidence.
Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council. Visit adoptuskids.org.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages we're up on these days, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, more or less the main one where most of the comments are coming in right now, but don't think that I'm also not seeing y'all over on, again, the Twitch and the YouTube as well, so all the major places we got there. I mean, Twitter, X, it's still twitter.com, so maybe this is the hill I'll die on. But in the meantime, yeah, you can, of course, comment over there. It's more of a, tweet, retweet type thing. So we can't put it up on screen the same way. It's about the only reason we prioritize the other ones. But hey, whatever works for you, be able to see, participate in the show if you choose to, but really just know what's going on. Those are the main things. So we're talking a bit about, of course, some of the issues at the start of the school year here, including, some of those concepts involving vaping, or specifically the criminal issues coming around with THC. But there's a whole lot more that also goes into, of course, handling kids, and particularly medical issues. So I was able to sit down last week, and we're planning on having some conversations more focused on THC in the future, so don't think that this is missing from that. But was able to sit down with the president and CEO of El Paso Children's Hospital to talk about the many things going on at the hospital, kind of get an overview, as we often like to do with newish topics, or at least ones that we haven't had the opportunity to speak with some of the people involved with before, about what's going on with the Children's Hospital, some of the efforts they have underway, some of the very interesting developments, and of course, the things that are planned for the future, and what has come previously, and how that is continuing to be dealt with and put to bed as much as possible. So again, here is that interview with, again, Cindy Stout. Enjoy. Joining me now, we have Cindy Stout, President and CEO of El Paso Children's Hospital. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Happy to have you on because, of course, healthcare issues surrounding it, and particularly the specialized care that when it comes to pediatrics or any of the other ones we end up talking about in our area, are incredibly important and have had a lot of development over the last couple of we've had a couple of significant decade-ish anniversaries that have happened in our area recently, including some things involving, say, the Texas Tech, medical school in El Paso, or not to get in trouble there, the Texas Tech University Health Sciences Center, El Paso. I know we need to see the full thing there. And of course, we've had the more recently, celebrating the 10-year anniversary of El Paso Children's Hospital as well. And so there's been a lot of things that have been said and have happened in the news over the years involving El Paso Children's. But when it comes to essentially the state of the hospital now, and particularly the services that are provided, what are some of the most important things that y'all are focused on, say, at this moment?
Yeah, and thank you so much. I think that there are a lot of things, obviously, from a children's specialty care perspective that we're focused on. One of the things of note is that we have to continue to be very patient as we're putting the hospital together. And I say that because I believe we are still the youngest children's specialty hospital in the United States.
Really?
We're certainly the youngest within Texas. We're one of 7 facilities that participate through the Children's Hospital Association of Texas. And those are the specialized children's hospitals that work with academic centers to invest in technology, the growth of healthcare professionals, and quite frankly, delivering that highest level of care for specialties for children.
So there might be other facilities that offer services to children. It's really kind of the research and the continuing investment in that really kind of differentiates what El Paso, that makes it part of that group you're talking about.
It does, but also the other component is that we are the safety net facility for this region. And so similar to what you see at University Medical Center, where they accept all levels of patients, regardless of the ability to pay, we do the same thing. Because we are part of the El Paso County Hospital District. We are a not-for-profit, so we are set up very differently than UMC. So we have to make sure that we're efficient and that we're doing the right things in terms of financials to continue to invest in the facility.
And there has definitely been, the creation of the facility itself was one of those major things that happened in the timeline that we've talked about here. So having that, separate tower over on the UMC campus in its own right, that has been incredibly important, of course, and having that ability and having that focus on this. But I mean, when we're talking about the growth and the services that are offered, I mean, people may think, or hear children. Okay, great. So we got smaller machines maybe or stuff like that, but there's a whole lot more that goes into it, particularly when you start talking about, some specific specialties such as, for instance, one that comes to mind for me is like a pediatric oncology or things like that. They are incredibly specialized because you're not just talking about smaller adults. You're talking about completely different physiologies in some cases.
So the cancer program is a great one to talk about. We are the only hospital in the region that is affiliated as a children's oncology group. What does that mean? That means the children of our region can stay here at home to be put on clinical trials. Oftentimes, if those facilities are not available in a region, the people often travel out to St. Jude's, MD Anderson, other types of cancer centers. But with our high specialists that we have and working with Texas Tech, and then our teams that we have at the facility at El Paso Children's Hospital, we're able to take care of those children, and they can go on research protocols at our facility.
And that is incredibly important. And in fact, you have a couple of, not even just within the specialty area, but you have a few specialized members of the staff that are there to specifically bring more services to our region, right?
Sure, of course.
You want to mention a couple of those?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I think you think about the facility and, starting up on our 10th floor is our pediatric intensive care unit. We have 2 intensivists on site 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We're connected to UMC. So when the trauma patients come through that are children or teenagers, they come over through the UMC emergency room doors, but then they come over and they get treated at El Paso Children's Hospital. So many times you'll see them in the PICU or the general pediatrics wing. Then you move down to our next floor, which is our general pediatric floor that has been at capacity for the last couple of years. We're in the process. We have the 8th floor that's a shell. We anticipate that we're going to be starting construction on that floor in the fall. So we're excited about that because we need the growth to accommodate all the children within the region. Our 7th floor is our neonatal intensive care unit. We have been redesignated as a level 4 NICU. And again, we take care of the smallest of babies. It's not unusual for us to have a baby that is only 22 weeks gestation within the womb of a mom. And so those are just some of the services that we continue to invest in so that way our children within the community can stay right here at home.
And again, if you're just joining us, guest right now is Cindy Stout, President and CEO of El Paso Children's Hospital. Find out anything more about them, what we're talking about, and again, the work they do, elpasochildrens.org. That's El Paso, CHILILDRENS.org. There's an apostrophe in the name, just not in the online version of it there. So elpasochildrens.org. So when it comes to then, particularly, I mean, the reach and the services that are provided that you mentioned about the region. So when we're talking about the region, that like the reach of the services that you all provide and where that ends up, providing to in our area, what kind of scope, how do you all end up describing it?
Sure. So we are the only specialized children's hospital in a 350-mile radius. So you think about covering all of West Texas, southern New Mexico, sometimes even children coming over from Mexico. But interesting enough, as we've recruited very top specialists, we have recruited those who have been pioneers in their field. We now get children from all over the world for certain specialties. So it's been really interesting to see those service lines grow.
Interesting. So can you talk a little bit more about some of those specific specialties? I mean, you talked about some of the facility build out and things like that, and that is certainly important, but particularly being on not just the providing, I mean, not to say not just providing, but besides being a hospital, advancing it is also, I mean, a critical part of what you all do, right?
Absolutely. And I think about, a service line such as cranial facial. When we first started, again, probably about 6 years ago, we had to put a lot of infrastructure into place. Now we are one of only 9 facilities nationwide that have a fellowship program. So we get individuals from throughout the United States who come over and they train with our physicians. We host symposiums where we've had physicians as many as almost 75 that will come to learn from El Paso Children's Hospital and our physicians that work specifically with us. Those children are coming from all over the world. We've had children from the Middle East, from Asia, from South America. It's really, again, as we've continued to invest in the infrastructure and these physicians that have these types of specialties, we're doing it because it's important for our children. I grew up here in El Paso, graduate of Andrews High School, and I want to make sure that our children and our grandchildren have the level of care that they should and they deserve right here in our community.
So when it comes to, again, continuing on those services and providing them, of course, there's a lot of things that people have heard about going on there, about, current issues. I mean, of course, in the recent years, there was the talk about children and their impact when it comes to the pandemic, vaccines, all of those kind of things. And even now, there's certain issues about what was considered rare or uncommon diseases beforehand. Now coming up, what are some of the critical issues besides, the ongoing development that you all always deal with, but more in a responsive way that you all are wanting people to know about what's going on in our community currently when it comes to the treatment and the issues that you all are encountering these days?
Yes, I think it's been really interesting because I have the great pleasure of serving on the Emergence Health Network, our local mental health authority board. During this last legislative session in Austin, I was constantly over there talking with our delegates and other individuals from throughout Texas. Really, the one thing that has struck us is the behavioral health, mental health component for children. Those that were in the pandemic, obviously, they had isolation. They didn't have that same social interaction with their peers. And consequently, what's happened is that you have children that are dealing with depression, anxiety, and quite frankly, other more severe forms of behavioral health. And so what we're trying to do now is work closely as a collaborative and put the programs in place so that our children receive that level of care. We want to treat them now, get them what they need before they move into adulthood.
Sure. Yeah. And dealing with that. So when it comes to then specifically the El Paso children's aspect of this here, how does that end up working for y'all? Does that end up being more referrals or something that you have to do with inside the facility? Just kind of how does that end up working?
Sure. So we've started a behavioral health services line. We have a pediatric psychologist, a psychometrist who does measuring and analysis for research. We have a pediatric behavioral specialist. We have licensed counselors. And so we're continuing to grow that service line. Again, really trying to get to the point to where when the children come in to see with us, that they have meaningful conversations and interventions to treat their behavioral and their mental health issues.
So very interesting services there. Of course, I'd be remiss if not talking about, of course, in the, again, 10 plus year history. It was technically, I think, was it last calendar year? So now we're in the 11th year, 11th 1 year of the El Paso Children's Hospital existence. And the way that you all do things is, of course, incredibly important for the community. But for those that may have stuck in their mind, I did some coverage of myself back in previous years and in previous reporting careers of there being some of the issues and the things going on with particularly the administration of it previously. When it comes to addressing those issues, what do you want people to know and what do you want them to keep in mind for the current situation?
Sure. So our hospital has come a long way, and it is our hospital. This was a hospital that the community asked for, demanded, and quite frankly supported. I have now been in my position getting close to 6 years in September. When I came on board, I was the 7th CEO in 5 years. And there was a lot of turnover. There were obviously some processes that we needed to put into place. And so my team and I, when we came on board at the end of 2017, we worked very closely together to do what we needed to do. Our hospital is in a solid financial position. And that's what's exciting, is because we want to make sure that it's sustainable for the generations to come. Was it an easy thing to do? No, because we had to look at all aspects within the hospital and put the right processes into place. But the good thing about it is that as we've continued to grow, we're bringing in more specialists, we're bringing in more staff members, we're bringing in techniques and technology that this region has never had before. And that's the right thing to do for kids.
And particularly on that part of the mission, I mean, the entire, Medical Center of the Americas complex and concept that exists there, off I-10 and Reynolds, essentially has been, just seeing that transformation over the years has been fascinating. I've done both stories on the buildings that have been built over there, some of the, neighborhoods that were then, being built into then becoming these facilities. So when it comes to what y'all are working on, particularly, for the future, and the way it's organized now is existing, under the, technically, again, the county when it comes to that aspect of it being an entity kind of within that and separate, like you said, in its own right. What do you think that the important thing you want people to know about the direction that this is going and will continue on for the future?
Yeah. So, I mean, I think even today we had our budget review over with the county commissioners, went extremely well. I've been very grateful for the commissioners and the county judge and the support that they've given to the hospital. The one thing I think that the general public may not quite understand is that we do not receive taxpayer dollars to El Paso Children's Hospital. And I think that is where the confusion often is. We are set up as a not-for-profit facility. We have to be successful financially in order to grow services. And so again, having the right people, having the right infrastructure to continue to do that has been key for us, and we've been very successful with it.
So again, guest right now joining us here in studio has been Cindy Stout, President and CEO of El Paso Children's Hospital. Again, you want to find out anything more about what we've been talking about here, including their specialties, services, and all of those things, visit them online, elpasochildrens.org. That's El Paso, CHILDRENS.org. So, Cindy, thank you very much for taking the time to speak with us about this, about the work that you all do and the importance and, of course, impact on our community here today.
Thank you so much.
So again, this recorded interview before this whole series and refocus on what's going on with vaping and children's issues with that coming to light. We have spoken with them and are hopefully going to have more on that on air before too long here for y'all. Probably a good reason to revisit that here before too long. So go ahead and take that next break right now. Coming out of this break, talking a little bit more about some of the other things, particularly interesting focus on El Paso from a state or even national level in the affordable housing sector, plus some news coming out right before we got on air, including more border issues. So stay tuned for more Talk El Paso after this break here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Again, I am your host, Andrew J. Polk, coming at you live from the News Radio 690 KTSM studios. Phone lines here in just a bit. A lot of comments coming up as well. So in any case, stay tuned. More Talk El Paso after this break here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Don't go anywhere.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
This is Liz DeWicki with your KFOX 14 news update. Police are investigating after a shooting Tuesday morning in Las Cruces. It happened about 8 a.m. near the 1500 block of South Solano Drive. Police so far are being tight-lipped about the investigation, but say one man is in the hospital and the other is in custody right now. Meanwhile, a man has been arrested after shooting at police officers over the weekend. Police confirming they arrested 68-year-old Jerry Lane after the incident at an apartment complex in Las Cruces on Saturday. Police say they went to the 3300 block of Oak Street for a call about suspicious activity and say the suspect fired gunshots through an apartment door, window, and wall. However, they say no one was hurt. Lane faces several charges right now. Operations are back to normal right now after a car chase that ended Tuesday morning at the Isleta Port of Entry. Customs and Border Protection's officers saying the pursuit ended in the southbound lanes at the border heading to Mexico. They tell us that one man is in custody right now after this incident. Despite the chaos, Border Protection officers say there was minimal traffic disruptions at the crossing. However, no other details have been shared with KFOX 14. With your KFOX 14 news update, I'm Liz DeWicki.
News Radio 690. Traffic all day.
I-10 westbound traffic is slow going to the Upper Valley. That Artcraft exit, by the way, is closed off the I-10 West. That's causing delays back to red with 10-minute delays. 9-minute delays on the I-10 eastbound Vinton down to red. A stalled semi on the left shoulder, Memorial Highway northbound at Montana, and an accident reported eastbound Montwood at Treywood Drive. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
From the KFOX 14 Severe Weather Center, I'm Chief Meteorologist Brad Montgomery. Continuing not as hot as we work our way through the week, at least compared to what we saw over the weekend. So good news there. Partly cloudy, high around 104 for your Wednesday, 10% chance of a thunderstorm. Partly cloudy for your Thursday, high around 103 degrees, 10% chance of a storm. We'll see partly cloudy skies, 20% chance of a storm for your Friday, high around 101. From the KFOX 14 Severe Weather Center, I'm Chief Meteorologist Brad Montgomery.
This report is sponsored by TurnToSupportsTX.org. Life can take a turn for anyone, and if it has for you, remember that there's so much for you to turn to. Everyone needs supportive people and healthy outlets in their lives so you don't have to face hard times alone. Visit TurnToSupportsTX.org for the help that's right for you.
Contact Tax Relief Helpers for details and restrictions. Attention anyone that owes money to the IRS. The IRS has restarted aggressive enforcement actions against taxpayers who owe back taxes that were temporarily suspended for COVID. If you owe $10,000 or more, you must hear this because now is the time to clear your IRS tax debt. A special toll-free number has been established so you can stop penalty fees, avoid liens, levies, and other hostile measures by the IRS. Call Tax Relief Helpers right now at 800-981-9615. Tax Relief Helpers will provide you with the maximum protection afforded by law.
I got behind on my taxes and owed $48,000. I didn't know what to do. I called and they got my bill lowered to just $3,500.
I owed $87,000 in taxes and it was scary. I got the amount I owed down to just $3,500. I saved $83,500.
If you owe money to the IRS, don't wait another day. Call 800-981-9615 right now before the IRS enforces liens, levies, or other aggressive measures. The call and consult are absolutely free. Call now. Call 800-981-9615. 800-981-9615. 800-981-9615.
Protection for all, peace of mind for you. For over 40 years, Mazer Security Alarms has proudly served El Paso with superior service and superior protection. You can afford the best. For your free quote or to upgrade your existing system, call Mazer Security Alarms at 915-590-0033.
Wendy's is open until midnight or later, which means all your favorite menu items are up later too. The Baconator still tastes just as juicy and bacony at night. So listen to that craving and turn in for the night at a Wendy's drive-thru. Hours may vary at participating U.S. Wendy's. This report is sponsored by Wendy's Late Night, open until midnight or later.
News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages we're up on these days: Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch.tv, either under Talk El Paso or Andrew J. Polk. A lot of comments, commentary, and conversation coming in over on those places as well. And of course, Talk El Paso brought to you in part by Sunland Park Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram. Find them, of course, 950 Crockett Street, right across I-10 from what's still for the moment Sunland Park Mall. But in any case, Sunland Park Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram still going to be there and still offering, particularly right now, their end of summerbration sale. No payments for 90 days, among other things. So check them out, 950 Crockett Street, Sunland Park Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram. And a lot of conversation on that. And one question coming up on that, James Ratcliffe asking, is from our guest there again, Cindy Stout, President and CEO of El Paso Children's Hospital. She related to David Stout. I do not believe so. At the very least, it didn't come up in the conversation, but that would be one of those things that you would like mention, I feel like. So I'm not aware of any link between them. There are a few Stouts in town, even if it's not the most common. There's a few Polks in town, actually, for that matter, even though this is super not one of the more common last names around town. So don't believe that there is, but and also other things, including about that question of the previous operations and among other things, John Browsleton saying wasting 3 years of taxpayer dollars trying to free Children's Hospital from parent UMC when it becomes El Paso's 18th taxing entity. Okay, so I did a decent amount of coverage of that back in the day when that was still progressing through some of the court cases, was in and out of the federal courthouse more than I would have liked at that point in time for something. I mean, it's just the federal courthouse is a different world entirely for coverage purposes. And I still don't really get what the purpose behind that was. I mean, it was bankruptcy, numbers, issues, and trying to see become independent. It always seemed like in some of the conversations we had in the newsroom at that time that there was some underlying theory, trump card, something that would be like the game changer that never came out about that. So again, as it exists right now, as again, CEO Stout and President and CEO Stout said, it is currently under the El Paso Children's Hospital, and of course, El Paso Children's under UMC and shares the same facility and building area. So I guess the relationship makes sense now. But whatever that was, yeah, it was a weird situation that I was never truly on the level with about why was it happening that way. I'll be honest with y'all, as we also have Eric von Holstein Rathlow joining us in over there. So one thing coming up, I mentioned one issue that happened at the border previously, but actually coming up since we've been getting up on air right now is that statement coming out from CBP about a large migrant group gathered and threw rocks at border gate near the Paso del Norte bridge. And according to them, so this happening Monday night specifically, not giving an exact time, around 8:50 happening there, and some of the sourcing of the issue there, including some other reporting going on from El Paso Times in this case locally, that it seems like there were more of those false rumors being spread surrounding this. The statement from CBP saying that no one should believe the lies of smugglers, of course, definitely reigns true, but particularly the El Paso Times citing that there were rumors about the border being open, something along those lines was being spread on certain social media channels, or again in conversations with those that have a vested interest in wanting or encouraging people to cross, particularly the monetary aspect of it there. So it seems like it was another one of those incidents, and no crossings did end up happening, and CBP did end up clearing that as well. So just one of those things going on, and coming a little bit more clear on this, and leading a little bit more from the CBP statement saying CBP is working to maintain the legal and orderly flow of entry to the U.S. while protecting the safety and security of legitimate trade and travel, including the safety of the traveling public, CBP, and the CBP's facilities and the CBP workforce. And then that line, no one should believe the lies of smugglers. The fact is that individuals and families without a legal basis to remain in the United States will be removed. So that one bit of extra clarification is coming on to that, as some, I think, brought up the idea a little bit earlier, including, I think it was RJ mentioning about seeing some being pushed back at the Puente Negro Black Bridge. I mean, it was, I do believe, the railroad bridge, among other things. So, yeah, there's another one of those instances, as we have seen previously in the region, and let's call it towards the start of this year, along the idea of, oh, hey, yeah, no, it's what was that one? Immigrant Day, I think it was the line that was being peddled at that point, saying that, oh, yeah, so therefore you get free entry. And so this keeps coming up, but given that we're not talking about necessarily a consistent population being subject to it, I think this is going to be one of those things where the information campaign, and frankly, the information, misinformation, and malinformation fighting of that continues to be important. So let's go ahead and take that next break right now. Coming out of this break, we'll go ahead and open up those phone lines as we normally do. So if you want to get on the line, add your 2 cents about this and the many other things going on and affecting us here in the Borderland, that number to do so is, of course, 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
Still seeing 10-minute delays on the I-10 westbound from Mesa up to Trans Mountain. About the same, a little bit better. 7-minute delays, I-10 eastbound Vinton down to Red. An accident is blocking the right lane eastbound on North Loop Drive, just inside the loop at Bordeaux. And an earlier crash partially blocking the intersection eastbound Montwood at Treywood. Kerry Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by TurnToSupportsTX.org. Life can take a turn for anyone. And if it has for you, remember that there's so much for you to turn to. Everyone needs supportive people and healthy outlets in their lives, so you don't have to face hard times alone. Visit TurnToSupportsTX.org for the help that's right for you.
Are you a business owner, CEO, or responsible for marketing? If you are, iHeartMedia can help you reach your goals and find new customers. We reach more consumers in your target area than anyone else. And we can give you access to those potential customers more cost-effectively across radio, digital, podcasting, and social. We'd love to show you how iHeartMedia can work for you. From your cell, dial pound 250 and say keyword great results. That's pound 250 and say great results.
The El Paso Community Foundation supports the causes you feel passionate about here in the Borderland, whether it's education, social services, arts and culture, the environment, health, or economic development. The El Paso Community Foundation has been promoting philanthropy and progress in our hometown region for more than 45 years. Make your mark with us. Start a fund today. For good, for El Paso, forever. Learn more at epcf.org. That's epcf.org.
Prescriptions require an online consultation with a healthcare provider who will determine if appropriate. Restrictions apply. See website for details and important safety information. Subscription required. Price varies based on product and subscription plan.
Hey guys, did you know there's a generic form of Viagra that works just the same, but is 95% cheaper? And you can get it online? Just go to 4hims.com/radio. Through Hims, you'll get a free medical consultation, discreet shipping if prescribed, a 100% online process, and trusted generic alternatives to the name brands at up to 95% off. That's right. Get generic for Viagra, the same active ingredient as brand name Viagra, but for 95% less. It's the same medication, still prescribed by a licensed medical provider, but with zero copay, no expensive appointments, and no awkward face-to-face conversations. To start your free online visit, you need to go to this exclusive address, 4hims.com/radio. That's forhims.com/radio for your free online visit. forhims.com/radio.
Wendy's BOGO $1 deal is back at participating Wendy's. Buy a Dave single, spicy chicken sandwich, 10-piece nugs, or medium frosty, and get another for $1. Double your deliciousness. Hurry, this BOGO deal won't last.
News Radio 690 KTSM El Paso.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so. A lot of ways to interact with the program, particularly at this point during the show. Of course, if you want to get on the phone line, those lines available now, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM lines are available, and we're short timing at this particular segment, so if you're on the line, go ahead and stay there. And for anyone new calling into the show, we had someone trying to jump the gun a little bit earlier, trying to call back in. You'll be put on hold for a bit, but we'll greet you before we get you on air for the most part. Though stay Johnny on the spot, because in the circumstance, if people end up dropping ahead of you, we might put you on there. So if you can hear the show, that's the right place to be for any of those notes. In any case, a couple of things I had mentioned, or at least teased a story, and I'll just mention it right now. An interesting article out from the Texas Tribune today, or I guess republished by the Texas Tribune, focused on El Paso, coming from the reporting outlet Capital in Maine, which is not one I'm most familiar with, but says for itself is a, what's the description here, is a nonprofit reporting concern, reports from California on the most pressing economic, environmental, and social issues of our time. So I'll have to do a little bit more deep dive to understand their body of work. But article titled, How Federal Dollars Might Help El Paso Stem Its Affordable Housing Crisis. Subtitled, Housing Costs Have Soared in the Texas City in Recent Years While the State Cuts Back on Funding. And kind of related to some conversations I've been having with some lately about particularly the cost of housing in El Paso. I mean, the place that I have now, that I'm very fortunate and happy to be in, don't get me wrong, would have been maybe a third of the price, even just if I went back 4 years. I mean, we were not quite in the capacity to purchase a home back in 2019, though, you know, retrospect and hindsight, certainly being 2020, and with what happened during 2020, kind of wish we had been a little bit better prepared and been ready to do that one, because, oh boy, is it a different situation now. But interesting overview of some of the funding numbers, including the current yearly budgets of things like it used to be the Housing Authority of El Paso, now the Housing Opportunity Management Enterprises home, that have the, I believe they're the main tenants of the Blue Flame building now, if I'm not mistaken, and also just other funding levels, and particularly the funding to Texas as a whole. So interesting view of particularly the out of affordable housing, and as it starts and concludes with talking with a formerly homeless veteran, or I believe, formerly homeless veteran who had relocated to El Paso. But we'll talk more about that. Check that out for yourself here, and we'll go ahead and take that next break. Got to hit the top of the hour. More of the comments up as well. Don't worry about that. So if you want to get on the line, of course, lines are available. 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
Still seeing 10-minute delays on the I-10 westbound from Mesa up to Trans Mountain. About the same, a little bit better. 7-minute delays, I-10 eastbound Vinton down to Red. An accident is blocking the right lane eastbound on North Loop Drive, just inside the loop at Bordeaux. And an earlier crash partially blocking the intersection eastbound Montwood at Treywood. Kerry Edwards, El Paso traffic.
Attention business owners. Was your company impacted during COVID? If you had W-2 employees during 2020 and 2021, you may be entitled for up to $26,000 per employee through the Employee Retention Credit Program. This is not alone. The IRS paid back billions already. We've helped thousands of businesses just like yours. So let us help you. At ERC Business Solutions, we make it simple. We do it all for you, so you won't have to worry about the complex application process. There's absolutely no risk. If you don't get paid, we don't get paid. Most businesses do qualify, even those with no decline in revenues or those that already got PPP. Discover how much you can claim. There's no cost or obligation. Call now, 800-200-2250. That's 800-200-2250. Get up to $26,000 per employee. Call 800-200-2250. 800-200-2250.
Our iHeartRadio Music Festival is coming back to T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas this September.
Superstar artists from every genre.
Streaming live only on
News
Hulu.
on the hour and a half. Traffic and weather all day. News Radio 690 is KTSM AM El Paso, an iHeartRadio station.
NBC News Radio, I'm Brian Shook. Crews continue to try to restore power to some areas of the eastern U.S. after yesterday's severe weather. More than 200,000 customers were still without power this afternoon. At least 2 people are dead due to the weather, with an Alabama man being killed after getting struck by lightning, and a South Carolina teen died after being hit by a falling tree. Police in Montgomery, Alabama say 1 person has turned themselves in and 2 others are expected to surrender in connection to a brawl at a river dock. Video of the fight that happened Saturday went viral on social media. It showed the black co-captain of a riverboat being attacked by a group of white men after police say he had asked them to move their boat from a reserved space. President Biden is taking action to protect nearly 1 million acres around the Grand Canyon.
First time I saw the Grand Canyon, as I stood there and looked out, a phrase came to mind. It was instinctive. I said, this is God's cathedral.
During a visit to Arizona today, Biden designated the area a national monument. The move protects land sacred to Native Americans in the region and permanently bans new uranium mining. Biden called the area a birthright passed down from generation to generation. Wall Street is closing with stocks lower.
This comes after credit rating agency Moody's downgraded America's banking sector. As a result, banks like M&T Bank and Pinnacle Financial fell sharply. At the closing bell today, the Dow Jones Industrial Average fell by 158 points, the S&P 500 dropped 19 points, and the Nasdaq lost 110 points. I'm Liz Warner.
Americans are running up credit debt to a record level. The New York Federal Reserve reports credit card balances in the U.S. have hit $1 trillion for the first time ever. COVID-19 hospitalizations in the U.S. are on the rise for the second week in a row. You're listening to the latest from NBC News Radio. New York City is reportedly preparing for thousands of migrant students to arrive in the next couple of weeks. Paul DeCastro reports.
The New York Post reports state and city education leaders met virtually Monday and are preparing for a massive influx of new students. Officials expect the huge batch of migrants will include many families with school-aged children. State Education Department Commissioner Betty Rosa requested the meeting, and the possibility of sending many of the new migrants to upstate communities was discussed. Governor Hochul says her budget includes more than $34 billion that could be used on new students from across the border. Paul DeCastro, New York.
Republican presidential hopeful Nikki Haley is calling for term limits and competency tests for elderly lawmakers. While speaking to voters in New Hampshire, Haley said there needs to be mental competency tests for politicians over the age of 75. The former South Carolina governor also took a swipe at President Biden, saying the tests include simple questions like, how many grandkids do you have? A reference to Biden's recent acknowledgement of his 7th grandchild. The Los Angeles Police Department's staffing level is at its lowest since the 1990s. Daniel Martindale explains.
According to reporting from KNBC TV, there were 8,967 officers employed as of July 30th. The current budget allows for up to 9,300 officers. Mayor Karen Bass has said her goal is to boost staffing to 9,500 officers. A new academy class started this week, but it's less than half full.
Bally's Atlantic City is banning guests under the age of 21 from its pool and fitness center. The hotel and casino says the move, announced late last week, is due to customer demand and complaints about rowdy kids. Reaction on social media has been mixed, with some people saying adults need a place to relax, while others claim it's unfair to families. Brian Shook, NBC News Radio.
Now, your chance at $1,000 and a trip to our 2023 iHeartRadio Music Festival. Yeah! Text the nationwide keyword festival to 200-200. You'll get a confirmation text and info. Standard data and message rates apply in this nationwide contest. That's festival to 200-200.
Get ready to win your way to our 2023 iHeartRadio Music Festival and $1,000.
You'll be there.
T-Mobile Arena here in Las Vegas.
September 22nd and 23rd.
Streaming live only on Hulu.
The iHeartRadio Music Festival.
The Hartford Small Business Insurance knows that opening a small business is a great achievement, thanks to all the owners for all they do to keep our communities vibrant and strong. Learn more about the Hartford Small Business Insurance and why over 1 million small business owners trust them. Visit thehartford.com/smallbusiness.
This report is sponsored by Wendy's Late Night, open until midnight or later. Wendy's is open until midnight or later, which means all your favorite menu items are up later too. The Baconator still tastes just as juicy and bacony at night. So listen to that craving and turn in for the night at a Wendy's drive-thru. Hours may vary at participating U.S. Wendy's.
Protection for all, peace of mind for you. For over 40 years, Mazer Security Alarms has proudly served El Paso with superior service and protection. Locally owned and operated, Mazer Security Alarms created Super Switch technology to prevent false alarms and keep your business and family safe. You can afford the best. For your free quote or to upgrade your existing system, call Mazer Security Alarms at 915-590-0033. That's 915-590-0033. Mazer Security Alarms.
Only iHeartRadio gives you access to all of your favorite radio stations.
It's the Rod Ryan Show. It's the Woody Show.
It's Elliot in the morning. All of the once-in-a-lifetime events. All of the best free curated playlists. The best bands. All of the great podcasts for every interest.
The stuff they don't want you to know.
All of the mind-blowing contests.
$20,000.
Awesome. All of your favorite superstars.
This is Dave Grohl from the Foo Fighters.
Best of all, it doesn't cost a thing. Download the absolutely free iHeartRadio app now.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages we're up on these days, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, and the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or twitch.tv. Andrew J. Polk. A lot of people tuning in, chiming and dropping their 2 cents, and certainly those likes and reacts, which we do appreciate over there, including Ida Beza Gardner, Monica Cervantes, James Holmes, Robbie Flores, Amber Vanda, RJ, Jim McCravey, and Marky Mandingo. If you appreciate the ability to talk about the things going on and affecting us here in the Borderland, whether you like the necessary topics overall, I mean, I definitely don't always, but if we're not going to talk about them, can't really trust anyone else to do it for us, as much as, like, I brought up that one article about El Paso. There's some interesting outside perspectives that are involved in it there. I'll just put it that way, as we also have on our way to wishing a wave to everyone, technically, if I'm going with the spirit of the emoji there. And in any case, again, if you want to get on that line, add your 2 cents that way, that number to call is 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. And some other comments coming in over there, including Richard Janicek with an interesting theory that based on the incident at the railroad bridge near the main part on one of the main crossings in El Paso, putting it as saying, so the cartel translated I-10 from Red to Vinton West opening Tuesday morning as the border is open. It's often said that the best lies have at least a grain of truth to them, though that would be a bit of a stretch, I would have to say. Frankly, I'm not sure that there is much need for here's it, like, literally justify it too. I mean, at some points when you start talking about it, as RJ was also saying, what's with the entitlement attitude, I think referring to that situation as a open it, you should open it kind of thing, as you start dealing with as much as there are more processes, even if there are legal challenges to it, of course, that have been going on federally speaking, that federal judge issuing that both or ending of or barring the use of the asylum restrictions, but also then the stay that has been put into place. That don't know if I've seen much more action being brought up on that just yet, though we're within technically the 2 weeks, though getting there. I believe it would be the end of this week, if not early next week, that would be donezo for, if not more filings end up happening. But in any case, you deal with a desperate enough population, particularly one that has been striving, and with all the issues and consternation, at the very least, that has come along with, say, the CBP One app. I wouldn't be surprised if even something that vaguely sounds like it could be real would be leading to people willing to at least take a look at it, and then you get enough desperate people in one particular area, and some of the estimates in the area between some of the previous numbers of people seeking assistance in the area, about 100 to 150. Don't know if that was how many were actively involved in that. What happened late last night, or around 8 p.m. last night, just after dark, certainly. Well, I can't say that I don't necessarily blame them, but I wouldn't be surprised for someone willing to say, well, if the possibility that it could have been true would have been enough for, I don't know, maybe myself in that similar type of situation. In any case, let's get to those phone lines now, as we are, of course, doing that here. Again, that number, okay, just filled up, 915-544-5876. We do have Raul in the Northeast on the line with us here right now. Raul, thanks for joining us.
Hey, Andrew. Affordable housing has always been a problem, actually. It's way too expensive to build conventional and traditional homes with all the regulations that there are around them. And on top of that, now we have people moving in from El Paso, from other places, retiring in El Paso, like places in California, where homes are super expensive.
Sure.
And they're bidding up the home prices in El Paso. I've also had many calls. Now, not now recently, but for a while, there were a lot of calls about people wanting to know if I was interested in selling my home.
Oh, yeah.
And so that's something that Wall Street is doing. They're building up their portfolio of rental properties. They'd like to see a lot of Americans be renters for life. That's their idea. Like also having people in debt for life over their cars, too. It's a way of life, and it's a way of turning people, in a sense, into kind of slaves, to the system. And so what we really ought to be doing as a government, as a people, is investing in developing technologies to build homes for significantly less, and build these homes to be green and energy efficient, instead of spending billions of dollars playing policeman of the world and coming up with new and better ways to kill people. The latest, greatest weapon system that we've got now. Nonetheless, back to El Paso, it's historically it's been a very good bargain. Homes here, but that's because of cheap labor from Mexico. A lot of these builders use illegal labor. I mean, come on, everybody knew it. There's no secret. And then the other problem is the real, or just as big a problem beyond and above the initial expense of the house is the cost of the money, getting the money. Most Americans cannot afford to buy a house cash. That I don't know when that was. That's probably before World War II or something.
Probably, yeah.
But most folks have to go out and borrow the money to purchase a home, and of course that's where interest rates come in, and they have a huge effect on how much a home somebody can buy. And by the way, those interest rates that we had that were real low, they were an anomaly. That was just a weird time. Historically, they've run in the 5 to 6% range. I should know a little bit about this. I was a realtor for a time and a mortgage lender for a subsidiary of Citigroup, a big company. In my view, Uncle Sam should be the primary home lender. That's how we could bring the overall cost of owning a home down. Uncle Sam's already involved indirectly via secondary mortgage purchasers like Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, and also via VA loan guarantees. They could offer lower rates and terms by cutting out the middleman. There is no rocket science to prudent, wise mortgage lending. It really isn't. I mean, there's much harder things to do, like building a weapon, that kills people millions of miles away, and some guy controlling it over here, from a computer. And again, the government has been involved in the financial sector for a long time. You have the Fed, which was created after the Great Depression, when speculation and lack of regulation caused the banks to fail. And so they had to come in and shore them up and give people some sense of security by creating the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation. So that's what I had to see on that. Now, back to school and vaping. Yeah, I'm a Cold War baby who lived through the Cuban Missile Crisis with air raid alerts here in El Paso and exercises because we had Fort Bliss and big Air Force Base here, which ensured El Paso would have been hit in World War III. Scary thinking about World War III and nuclear annihilation. But now kids have to worry about domestic terrorists coming into their school and killing them, So they have to have these exercises in case that happens. How sad. It went from the enemy from the outside to the enemy within. very, very sad thing that's going on. Now, this vaping thing, the tobacco industry, that's a tobacco industry attempt to hook kids on their product. It's a gateway product. My mother started smoking in college and never stopped. And like a bunch of her girlfriends, some of whom died of lung cancer. My parents, my family, my friends, they were all smokers and social drinkers. And that's what they did at parties. They smoked and they drank. And, when I was growing up in college, I thought it was kind of hypocritical because at the time the government had decided to take a war on marijuana, which a lot of kids were starting to smoke back in the 60s,
Sure.
and they made a big deal out of it. Man, they'd ruin your life if you got busted using it and certainly selling it. And all the whole time, they had this legal drug business of cigarettes and booze that had all these people hooked on it. I mean, talk about hypocrisy. And it involves the politicians, those hypocrite politicians that made pot illegal, but it was all right to have cigarettes and alcohol, which hooked people. It caused, lung disease and heart disease, and because these businesses were built into and grandfathered from the founding of the country, the tobacco industry, which was built with slaves on top of that, So really, really bad stuff. And it reminds me, again, of this anthropogenic global climate change. The idea there was get people hooked on their product. And again, corporate America, they don't want their businesses and products and manufacturing processes scientifically studied so we can find out if they are a harm to the public safety and the kids. So again, political corruption, because we got the best politicians, plutocrats can buy. I mean, and then the hypocrisy, my body, my choice, but not for women's reproductive rights. How about that? Those on the right. But they criminalized pot for generations, and then they legalized it. But in the meantime, they ruined all kinds of lives, for it.
I mean, yeah, there's the way, what's the way I've heard it put that when we start talking about and having former politicians, the former Speaker of the House, Boehner, being involved in, I forget which state he hails from, but the fact that he has now been at least attached to or was attached to certain projects that were going on within the state level legalization, starts talking about whenever there are former heads of state that are being considered involved in this, there's a whole lot of people that should probably no longer be in prison. And so that dichotomy is certainly a problem here. But I mean, you talked about a lot of things and connected a lot of issues, particularly to the marijuana and the pot thing. I mean, part of that originated right here in El Paso. Used to have the start of an article from, I want to say, 1908. That was also part of the rebranding, because you want to talk about implications from the founding here. Hemp, as it was more commonly known, I mean, that was the product of choice to manufacture rope, particularly for the U.S. Navy, from its inception, and was, grown on George Washington's farm, all of those kind of things. But it got a rebrand because it had a lot of implications, actually, when you talk and look at some of the records in terms of industry, even outside of the intoxicant effects of it, for textile, for cardboard, for other things like that, for just a whole lot of industries, even construction. So point is that the rebrand from just actually being hemp to marijuana, which is therefore, more foreign sounding. And part of the article that was published in the El Paso Herald-Post, I do believe it was, back at the turn of the previous century, was along the lines of something, I'll have to find the exact label for it here, but marijuana, that insidious Mexican herb that drives its users to crave murder. As close to a close approximation as I can get here, but that was the gist of it, and was then implicated in at least one homicide that happened in our region at that point in time. But that was the part of it. So the rebranding and the othering of it, and of course how it was used, the idea of only dropouts or wastoids or certain ne'er-do-wells end up using it, end up being issues. But we'll see what comes out of this. I don't expect Texas is gonna, unless there's a hell of a sea change politically, would move anywhere more towards the legalization of it at the state level. Hell, even if it happens federally, I would kind of expect that Texas will probably be like one of those last states as holdouts from even a dry or smoke-free, I don't know how you would put that, a non-THC state. I don't know if that'll be a thing that could be done, but if it could be, I would expect that it probably would be happening. But I'll say this, that I mean, kids as young as 10 even vaping. I mean, there's the whole kids are invincible aspect that, I mean, I'm sure I was guilty of that at that point in time as well. Maybe not at 10, but in any case, the fact that we have some more needing to happen with that is a very important reason we're still mentioning it here. But on the affordable housing, yeah, when I was coming up and like getting out of college and starting to think about, big adult decisions, one of the things and concepts I had in my mind that died a very slow and painful death, the concept that is of, I could probably get a house, like a nice starter home in our area for maybe $150,000, and then actually got to the market and look at it, and the median home price in El Paso has been right on the cusp of, but I do believe is over $200,000 now, which is quite the sea change. And definitely, again, it was a rough road for me to come to accept that and to deal with it and to finally accept and sign the terms of the mortgage we have. There's also been some memes going around that, particularly with the interest rates and the way they are changing, because as some others have pointed out, that the interest rates have historically been way higher than this, and that if that trend hopefully doesn't continue, but that it all repeats itself, that nice starter home that people bought in the midst of the pandemic may be the one that they end up dying in, because they'll never be able to get the same kind of rates and therefore affordability for any kind of commiserate house or property for the future. So there's a lot that comes with that. But I mean, as much as El Paso has seen it's been called the stagnation of the population, hasn't technically lowered, at least according to official stats, though some of the estimates do point it as fluctuating, above and below the same line as it was. We still have seen we have huge occupancy, like 95% plus of both apartments and homes. So there is a serious lack of supply in our area. And so there are certain things that have been getting focused on, like I've seen more reasonable examples, not in our local area, at least not that I'm aware of, but nationally, of like 3D printed homes. And it's interesting. I mean, it's been a lot of like, oh, hey, wave of the future stuff. We'll see whatever happens with it. But if it would actually become viable, that could be something, though. Yeah, certainly the cheap labor has been an impact and a focus in our area, though getting that back on track has also not exactly been a given here, though. Some others saying, like RJ saying, rates are going up. That's a given. So, I mean, there's a lot going into this and a lot we'll keep our eye on here. So again, that article that I was referring to there from the Texas Tribune, sourcing reporting from Capital in Maine, how federal dollars might help El Paso stem its affordable housing crisis. Interesting one to look at. We'll post up that link over in our comments section here in just a bit. So appreciate the point in the call and the local aspects of it here. There's still a lot to be talked about, and we'll keep doing that as we do, but we got to take that next break right now. So coming out of this break, we get to more of those phone calls and phone lines. Line available now, 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
Heads up for a crash on I-10 westbound at Piedras as you go through downtown. That is partially blocking the on-ramp. Gateway North at Fred Wilson, a vehicle is stopped in the center lane. I-10 westbound is slow. Mesa up to Las Muchas, it's a 10-minute delay, mostly stop and go. And police still working an accident eastbound Montwood Drive at Traywood. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by Wendy's Late Night, open until midnight or later. Wendy's is open until midnight or later, which means all your favorite menu items are up later too. The Baconator still tastes just as juicy and bacony at night. So listen to that craving and turn in for the night at a Wendy's drive-thru. Hours may vary at participating U.S. Wendy's.
In this week's Marketers Report, we hear about the importance of local radio from Allison Griffin, head of marketing at State Farm.
iHeart has such a broad broadcast reach that is local, and for us to be able to touch customers with a local feel but at a national scale is so efficient and important for us.
As the #1 audio company, iHeartMedia gives marketers access to the audiences, trusted influencers, and data you need to grow. If you're a marketer, go to iHeartResults.com.
Hi, I'm Burt Ward, Robin from TV's Batman, inviting you to feed your dog natural, non-GMO, Gentle Giants dog and puppy food. Dogs eating Gentle Giants and following our special feeding and care program are living as long as 27 healthy, active years with a wonderful quality of life. Holy wow, 27 years! Think of all the extra years you could enjoy with your dog at Target, H-E-B, and stores near you. Try Gentle Giants cat and kitten food, too.
This is a special alert to all Americans who own a vehicle with less than 200,000 miles with an auto warranty about to expire or with no warranty coverage at all. Due to a decline in the economy, CarShield is announcing a low-cost month-to-month vehicle protection plan that is now available to the public to save any driver out-of-pocket expenses on future auto repairs. Call now to find out how you can pay almost nothing for covered auto repairs. Yes, you heard that correctly. Pay almost nothing for covered auto repairs. An open phone line has been established for all drivers to call for a free quick quote. Call 800-989-8906 now. Drivers who are covered will not have to pay for covered repairs again. This protection plan is at an all-time low. Additionally, drivers who activate this vehicle protection today will also receive free roadside assistance, free towing, and car rental options at no additional cost. Call us for your free quick quote today. 800-989-8906. That's 800-989-8906. What do you have to lose? Call 800-989-8906. Again, 800-989-8906.
City streets or small towns, everyone deserves a clean, green community. We are Keep America Beautiful, the nonprofit working to end littering, improve recycling, and beautify communities. Let's do beautiful things. Visit KAB.org.
News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages we're up on these days, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, more or less the main one, where most of the comments end up coming in anyway, and the Thunderdome comments can definitely come in play, so forewarned, forearmed if you're waiting in over there. But of course, there's other ways to get us here, including full up at the moment, but the phone lines are open. 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. And we'll get to a lot more of those here. I want to dip into the comments here for just a second, including Richard Janicek saying their neighbor just sold their 1800 square foot townhome built in 1986 for $330,000. Wow. I do have to say, I mean, the place we got, slightly bigger than that, slightly less, but I'm sure with the appraisal, they'll be there before too long in the changes. Even though it was successful this last year, they're already looking forward to dealing with that next year. And yeah, that's not terrifically surprising to me. I don't know what that says about my mentality at this point in time. Again, that whole idea of starter home, $150,000, that a very painful death in my mind. And don't know if it's coming back anytime soon. I mean, I've got certain friends and people I talk with saying, oh, no, it's turning around. But there's a couple of buoying factors in my mind when it comes to the El Paso market, particularly for housing. We do have some, I'm not going to call it artificial inflators, but other factors in place, like particularly a Fort Bliss and all of the military. I mean, I would practically guarantee, I don't know if there's any way to ever verify this, but I would be very surprised if every three-letter federal agency that has a reason to be involved in security, national security, border security, anything with security in the name, or anywhere in between. I mean, we have the largest contiguous federal military reservation, I do believe, in the United States when you combine Fort Bliss, McGregor Range, White Sands Missile Range, and Holloman Air Force Base. So anytime you drive out, anyone's ever been out to 54 way, continuing on, headed out, Oro Grande and beyond, the amount of times I've seen just caravans of nondescript black, either sedans or Suburbans, and just no indication of what they're doing, and then just festooned with many different apparatuses, including, wires, communicators, things I could not quite identify, etc. Like, there's every agency operating out of here. So we've got those aspects, I guess, as well, is what I'm getting at, also present. And therefore, if they have to relocate here, and some people may say, well, yeah, but wouldn't that just be a churn, particularly with Fort Bliss? People move in every 2 years, more people move out. And yet I'm aware of a lot of people that end up, including some people I live nearby now, that this is their most recent home, sure, but they have in all of their previous relocations, their previous duty stations, at least when it comes to the continental United States, they have retained ownership of those homes and rent them out. No fault to them, but that's an example of how it can continue to be a consumption issue. And so I kind of increasingly feel lucky that we are where we are, and wondering if I'll ever be able to leave where we are. Not that I intend to right now. No realtors start calling me immediately anyway, but still, it's a thing. Anyway, let's go back to those phone lines now. Some other things, including Marky Mendingo saying, I could rent a room in my house for $800 per, but not sharing the shower. Hippies only apply. Good luck with that one. But in any case, back to those phone lines. We do have Ed on the east side here with us right now. Ed, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, and happy National Whataburger Day.
Yep. Ed, get a little bit closer to the handset there if you can. He had a little trouble hearing you.
Happy National Whataburger Day.
Oh, yes, it absolutely is. Mm-hmm. Well, happy National Whataburger Day to you as well.
Yeah, you know, I don't know. I think it's because of the high rent here. I think it's because of Fort Bliss, because your Fort Bliss soldiers that move off post, they get a lot of their housing paid for, you know. And I think that's why rent is so damn high in these apartments here and houses. But
it's certainly a buoying factor. I would certainly agree with you on that point, because I mean, we got these. I mean, you have to get off there, but once you start getting the BAH involved, it does play a factor.
Yeah, and then I don't know. This might be a good question for Raul because he likes financing. But you know, you get so many invites. Buy our gold, coins or paper or whatever.
Oh, sure.
Buy it. Buy this gold, and they want your so-called worthless money for their valuable gold. Why don't they just keep their gold? Do they want our worthless money? That's kind of hard for me to understand.
I'm not in that business for several reasons, and again, when the idea of as a hedge against inflation, I guess it makes sense. But if you're planning to have all of that here, and as I mean, some of them put it in like, you know, true emergency or, you know, collapse situations, what are you planning on doing with it then? Because if you're going to try to eat it, good luck. If you're going to try to convince someone to take like a gold bar from you, also good luck with that. Even a coin, even its value these days. I mean, what is gold at an ounce? It's been high for a long time, and I don't expect it to come down anytime soon. But if you want to treat it as a commodity, that's one thing. If you're going to try to treat it as currency, I don't think you're going to have the best time with it. I'll be perfectly honest with y'all.
Yeah, I don't think you can get a Whataburger with a gold coin. Got to have that worthless money. Andrew, you got a good program here, buddy. And I'll vote for Marco. We'll see you, bud.
Appreciate the point of the call. You have a good one there.
All right, bye. It's money.
I mean, yeah, the money is interesting. And so what is the price gold per ounce? So like 1 ounce coins. Yeah, $1,900, depending on the this is whatever company Monex whatever is looking at. So yeah, that's why I kind of think about around $2,000 per ounce. So yeah, try to go into Whataburger and be like, give me $2,000 worth of Whataburgers on a day like today. Oh boy, that would be interesting. Reno Rivera with an interesting note saying civilians are allowed to rent houses on military installations. I wonder how that would work, or if that's even possible at Fort Bliss, because having just looked at some of the sea changes and the different commanders that have come in, and I don't remember which one it was, kind of maybe a little bit before my reporting time, but I mean, Fort Bliss used to be, you could go through just about any gate, even as a civilian. I mean, you have to show your ID, maybe go to the visitor center, get your temporary pass or whatever. But I mean, like Freedom Crossing, places like that were set up with at least an eye towards like general public involved. And then I think some commander came in and said, you're letting people do what on my secure military installation? Oh, hell no. Maybe not in those exact terms, but that's the implication I get. And so haven't had cause to go on there for several years myself. Used to have badged access myself at one point, and really haven't had a cause to go back there since that point. So I just got to say that I don't know what it would be like to be a civilian renting on post, given the way things work currently. I'm assuming there'd be a better way to do it, but it also makes me wonder if it's even possible or feasible on the local installations anyway. So let's go and take that next break right now. Coming out of this break, we'll get to more calls, more comments, more of everything we do on the line. So if you're on the line, stay there. If you want to call in, okay, that line just filled up, but keep that number handy, 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
This is Liz DeWicki with your KFOX 14 news update. Police are investigating after a shooting Tuesday morning in Las Cruces. It happened about 8 a.m. near the 1500 block of South Solano Drive. Police so far are being tight-lipped about the investigation, but say one man is in the hospital and the other is in custody right now. Meanwhile, a man has been arrested after shooting at police officers over the weekend. Police confirming they arrested 68-year-old Jerry Lane after the incident at an apartment complex in Las Cruces on Saturday. Police say they went to the 3300 block of Oak Street for a call about suspicious activity and say the suspect fired gunshots through an apartment door, window, and wall. However, they say no one was hurt. Lane faces several charges right now. Operations are back to normal right now after a car chase that ended Tuesday morning at the Isleta Port of Entry. Customs and Border Protection's officers saying the pursuit ended in the southbound lanes at the border heading to Mexico. They tell us that one man is in custody right now after this incident. Despite the chaos, Border Protection officers say there was minimal traffic disruptions at the crossing. However, no other details have been shared with KFOX 14. With your KFOX 14 news update, I'm Liz DeWicki.
News Radio 690. Traffic all day.
I-10 westbound at Aircraft, the on-ramp is closed for the next couple of weeks due to road work, and that is causing delays impacting the I-10 westbound with traffic backed up to Mesa. It's a 12-minute delay. Westbound on Liberty Expressway at Global Reach, a Jeep is blocking the right shoulder. And watch for an accident eastbound Pebble Hills at Ivanhoe. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
From the KFOX 14 Severe Weather Center, I'm Chief Meteorologist Brad Montgomery. Continuing not as hot as we work our way through the week, at least compared to what we saw over the weekend. So good news there. Partly cloudy, high around 104 for your Wednesday, 10% chance of a thunderstorm. Partly cloudy for your Thursday, high around 103 degrees, 10% chance of a storm. We'll see partly cloudy skies, 20% chance of a storm for your Friday, high around 101. From the KFOX 14 Severe Weather Center, I'm Chief Meteorologist Brad Montgomery.
This report is sponsored by TurnToSupportsTX.org. Life can take a turn for anyone, and if it has for you, remember that there's so much for you to turn to. Everyone needs supportive people and healthy outlets in their lives so you don't have to face hard times alone. Visit TurnToSupportsTX.org for the help that's right for you.
I'm back to doing what I love and more, thanks to the Good Feet store.
This planet is so incredibly beautiful that I can't get enough of it. I did 950 miles on the Pacific Crest Trail, and Good Feet was with me all the way.
Hi, this is Mike with the Good Feet Store. Are you ready for summer adventures? Don't let your feet get in the way. Learn how the Good Feet Store can help.
Your passion's important, but if your body aches and if your heel feels like you've got a nail stuck in it and won't come out, trust me, it's going to wear you down. The Good Feet Store knew what they were talking about and took the time to really dial in what I needed. I hiked 84 miles in the Himalaya and to do it pain-free. You think I'm not grateful for Good Feet?
You deserve comfort in your life too. Sandal season is here and Good Feet fits into all your summer shoes, even flip-flops. Visit the Good Feet store today for your free fitting and test walk.
Thanks to the Good Feet store.
Schedule your appointment today at goodfeet.com.
Wendy's is open until midnight or later, which means all your favorite menu items are up later too. The Baconator still tastes just as juicy and bacony at night. So listen to that craving and turn in for the night at a Wendy's drive-thru. Hours may vary at participating U.S. Wendy's. This report is sponsored by Wendy's Late Night, open until midnight or later.
Donna from Louisiana. The storm just hit, and we went from donating to the food bank to needing it.
Hunger is a story we can end. End it at feedingamerica.org. Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
News Radio 690 KTSM El Paso.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so. A lot of ways to interact with the show, be it on air, online, live, streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or over on our various social media channels, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch.tv, either under Talk El Paso or Andrew J. Polk. And a lot of people adding their 2 cents on those ways, including James Radcliffe questioning the whole National Whataburger Day. It's coming up in the news, I do guess, because they are yesterday and today giving out free Whataburgers. You have to have the rewards app. So not a promotion or anything, but just trying to answer your question there, calling it overpriced himself there. But in any case, also asking, I wish there was a day that means I don't have to give a flying leap is the way I'm going to choose to say that. But I'll try to do a quick search on that. But most of the results ended up saying that don't give a flying leap day was yesterday, but no one cared. In any case, more comments coming in, among other things, including Renato Rivera on the idea of on-base housing for civilians, saying, I'm told crime rates are low, therefore safe neighborhoods. Most of the houses are well-maintained and lower rent than off-post. You just can't use the post exchange or commissary. Interesting idea, but as he continues on, military housing is now contractor managed, and that allows non-military rental. I would guess they read the Riot Act before allowing rental. Yeah, that would be at the very least my expectation. And again, I don't even know if it's feasible in our local area, if it's allowed. I guess technically, possibly might be, but would definitely be something that would be subject to like just getting on and off post at the very least. If you're still subject to the general parts of it, would be a little bit nuts. Not the thing I'd be looking forward to. Anyway, in any case, getting back to those phone lines now. We do have Marco and Central on the line with us here right now. Marco, thanks for joining us.
How's it going, Andrew?
Doing all right there. What's on your mind?
Well, we reopened the restaurant, and I was taking a delivery.
Mm-hmm.
So I deliver on a bike, by the way. So if you guys ever see me, wave. I'm
okay.
More than happy to stop and talk. But I was going around downtown, and I was noticing and not that I've never noticed it, but it affects me more because I think of it because of what I'm doing. And I stopped and I started talking to this individual right there by the Crest building because I was riding around there.
Mm-hmm.
And I started talking to him and I said, hey, do you know what's going to happen there? Because there's this little construction.
Sure.
He's like, I heard they're going to, and by the way, it's Jordan Foster's the name of the construction company that's right in that area.
Sure.
And they were like, oh, they're going to build a laundromat, and I think they're going to do something with a cafeteria where people can basically like a food court. I was like, that is precisely the wrong thinking right there, because it's just the downtown. There's no reason. When you ride there, especially when you're so close, I was like, this building right here, there should be foot traffic going in and out. Mm-hmm. It's such a beautiful area right there. Like, it's really nice. You got the Starbucks, the Mrs. Or whatever that little cookie company is. You have
Mm-hmm.
And then you have these little restaurants that are great, Alice in 11 and Cafe Central. Okay, we gave. I think it was which one of it was one of the Abrahams who owned that building before, wasn't it?
I do believe so, yes.
I think it was. And look at the harassment that the city gave these guys because they didn't want to do anything in there. And then, all these years later, and you're going to put a laundromat for the Camino Real down there? Like, that is just so asinine about this city right here. The backward thinking, when we could be doing so much more with the buildings down there, getting more. I don't know if people realize this, or if even whatever corporation owns that or whichever individual owns that. When you build a Target in the downtown area, that Target is going to employ about 50 to 60 people from your local area right there. That is such an opportunity because now that starts to influence and change the downtown area because there's people that live in the downtown area actually. And so once you start doing that and changing this as an aspect of the downtown area, it would be much easier to requalify it as an old town and really start to open it up. Of course, once I get into office, Mayor for Marco, it'll probably be easier to tackle these issues. But I wish the people with money. I know if I had the money, I have the vision, but I don't have the money, obviously. These people have the money. It's like they're the owner of the Eggo waffle company, and they're like, yeah, we make waffles, but we don't make syrup for our own waffles. And there was a commercial finally where they made they made syrup for their waffles,
Okay.
and it shows their corporate board being like, we make waffles. Why didn't anybody ever make the syrup? That's what's going on here in El Paso. We make the waffles, but
Okay.
there's no syrup. There's no juice. There's no desire. And that culturally has to change. It's not the people of El Paso. The people of El Paso want a lot. Like, here's another idea that I have, and I don't know if it's feasible.
Sure.
Right there in front of on I-10, okay, between Cotton and the Texas building. Okay, there's all this federal area for the railroads, right?
Oh, sure.
And so Texas goes right there, and it's a huge area, right? It's big.
Oh, yeah.
How can we redivert that railroad traffic, finally capture that area, and put an amusement park that you could see from I-10? I mean, make it beautiful. Really start to bring in, just change the vision of El Paso. But instead, I guarantee you nobody's going to fight. You know, proposing the idea for the new downtown on the other side of I-10 is going to require a fight, because that is a federal wildlife ground. So how do you crack it? What do you have to do? Also, what do you do for the aviation restrictions that are there? Because I want to build buildings. People don't think of these things, but I'm ready for the fight. So, most people get in there and they'll be like, okay. They'll take that attitude. Well, pues, le hicimos las ganas, pero no llegamos. We tried, but we didn't get there. And that's the wrong thing. So there's a lot of things in El Paso that can be changed. It's just we need leadership that's ready to fight for El Paso, to put the visions for El Paso. You need a Walt Disney for El Paso, and I'm ready to be that Walt Disney for El Paso. Marco for mayor. If you guys are sick and tired of seeing El Paso just be the city that can be but never does, I'm ready to make this city into metropolis. Hey, thanks, Andrew.
Yeah, well, sure. Thank you for the point in the call and the ideas. I do appreciate it.
You're welcome, brother. Have a beautiful day.
I'll just say this, particularly on the downtown railroad or that area. I mean, it has seen a lot of, there used to be more rail lines there just physically. And I would say that if there was the desire for a downtown arena, particularly since El Paso City Hall is basically technically, once you get past, Texas, is a better, like there's been a lot of stuff being developed down there, kind of the extension of downtown once you start kind of heading, east, but kind of northeast, really, if you look at it. I just say if they're with all the arena talk, that's with what they did for the downtown ballpark, they set the precedent for what happens if you want a big new venue in downtown. You got to be willing to demolish City Hall in the meantime to do it. And it could go there, except that the railroad, and a lot of people, I don't think, fully realize this. I mean, they're basically their own form of government. They have their own police and have some serious, like not even just in state, but in federal law enshrined rights. So basically, anytime the railroad has had anything and deals made with it from the city of El Paso in particular, there's been one major thing that they've asked for, because for them, what makes them money is speed and accessibility. They've got the accessibility more or less dealt with by the big new, I've got the video around here somewhere, maybe I'll pull it up for next time, being sent out towards the Santa Teresa area. I mean, their whole modal out there is pretty nuts to look at. They got all the space they could want out there, at least for the moment. May not, that's part of the reason the rail yard is where it is in downtown, because they used to have all the space they want and then things changed. But that's more like a generational epoch kind of thing. But if you want to do anything with them, what they've generally asked for is shutting down rail crossings, meaning, particularly near that area throughout downtown El Paso and other parts of it, they have all of these crossings. You start talking about like along, say, Piedra Street, they got that crossing there. They want those shut down or turned at the very least into quad gates, but also just like those, you can no longer cross those streets. That's what they've asked for. And if you're not willing to play ball with them, they have basically no incentive nor way to kind of like twist the arm even to make them work with you. So that's may not be the most feasible one. It's an interesting idea. And again, I think that would be a good place, at least decent, better accessibility than the place that was being talked about in the Duranguito area for putting an arena. But I'm not going to hold my breath on that project in any case. Some other comments coming in, including Trio Sack mentioning Dallas is a great bike/running path that will span a full 50 miles upon completion. Does El Paso have any ambitions for such a project? That could be helpful. Interesting idea. I think that some of the ideas, particularly for the former Kasner Range and the national monument that's been established here, it's going to take some time because you got to de-explodify the area, but there's some possibilities there. Let's squeeze in the calls we can before the end here. We do also have Frankie and Messi on the line with us here right now. Frankie, thanks for joining us.
Okay. I'm a little bit behind the power curve here because
Okay.
I didn't realize until yesterday that August the 3rd is a significant date in El Paso, specific to the fact that some nut job from Dallas went and killed a lot of you fellow El Pasoans out there. As bad as that is, I heard, this is disgusting, just unbelievably disgusting. Your senator, Thud Cancun Cruds, offers his thoughts and prayers? What the heck does that mean? What do you mean his thoughts and prayers? What does that mean? Just that alone, Andrew, and everybody else out there in South Pleasant. What is that supposed to mean? Answer that to me. Go ahead.
Don't necessarily have a good answer for you there, except kind of the base meaning of the words that, as a platitude towards consolation or, condolences. But, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of statements that came around August 3rd. We talked about some of them on, of course, the day of it, of course, also with the updates. And just as a note, we are actually looking at getting a little bit more in depth on what is some of the circumstances around it, including that federal prosecution. I have some plans on that for later this week. But I mean, there's a lot of things that end up being said about it. Whether you take them as sincere or not is another question.
Wait a minute now. Hold on. Time out here. How in the world can any of you Texans out there accept anything from this moron that took off to Cancun when all you people are freezing? And what is that supposed to mean? He goes out there and says some mushy stuff about 23, 24 of you folks out there, and he offers this mushy little whatever the heck it is. What the heck is the matter with you people? Get the heck this guy out. What is the matter? Oh, I can't even talk. Oh, my God. This guy's a nut job. Get rid of him for crying out loud. He's a wuss. He's nothing but a wuss.
Well, we'll see what happens with this upcoming election cycle. But I will say that I don't expect him to be fully primary. I know if there's at least one potential challenge, or I think someone who has possibly filed on it here. But ever since, particularly the 2016 or 2018 election in that case, has made it a question of is there any real viable challengers to him? And I haven't delved fully into the burgeoning, because, I mean, we're coming up with that, I do believe, in 2024 in that case. So we'll see, but I'm not going to hold my breath on it in the meantime.
Well, I hear what you're saying. Listen, I just went off the deep end. But, I mean, my senators here, the great state of New Mexico, land of enchantment, and all of our other elected officials are normal, squared-away people. This guy that you nominated to have you represent Texas is a nut job. I don't understand what the heck is the matter with you Texans out there that you can put up with this junk. That's all I want to say about it.
Yeah, well, fair enough. Well, appreciate the point in the call. You have a good one there.
Okay, Andrew, take care.
And with that, I think we can squeeze in one more quick call on the line here. We do have a Johnny over in Central. Johnny, thanks for joining us.
Yes, good evening. Amen, Frankie. Cruz and Corner needs to go. Anyway, let me get to what I was going to call about. You had some good, interesting subjects causing me to reminisce about the housing and the
sure
and alcohol. I came here in the early 70s. Military brought me here. And ironically, I was going to try to live on base, but at the time, sometimes you don't get a chance to move right in because, space is not available. So you have they offer an option. You could go out into this community, rent something, house or an apartment, and then wait to get back on base. And so I ended up, like I said, it was an accident, but it turned out to be a wonderful thing for us because the house that I leased, we started liking it so much till the owner, I had been there about a year and I was getting ready to come down on orders again to go to Korea. And so the owner said, well, I'm thinking about selling anyway, so you want to move out or whatever? And I said, sell. The word sell jumped at me, and my wife and I agreed that we should buy it. And I'm looking at the house right now on the internet because when you all start talking about housing, I said, let me pull this up.
Sure.
Of course, I'm not going to give the address because
the
owners don't give them privacy. I bought that house for $12,000. Of course, $12,000 back then was a lot of money. People today can buy a car, and that's not even worth. That's nothing nowadays. A brand new car back then was $4,000 to $5,000. But anyway, we bought that house $12,000. Took me forever to pay it off, and I'm looking at it now. It's going for $150,000, and that's 12 times. I did the math. That's 12 times. So I'm saying this about the best investment anyone can make to gain some wealth. Not saying they want to gain wealth, but you can gain it while you enjoying it. Is a home. I understand. In the past, I heard you say you had purchased a new home.
Right.
So if you can hang around in there, the house is going to improve in value. The one I'm in now, we've been in it about 20 years. We bought that for $100,000 back then, and it's triple. So you can't go wrong by purchasing a house. Now, getting back to the bad news about the tobacco and the so-called other drugs. I was coming up, my family, I just go and say it, my father and my brother were avid smokers, cigarettes, and alcohol and things like that. And I asked my dad, and then at that time, back when I was coming up on it, marijuana. And I think they even called them reefers back in those days. That was scorned on, looked down on. And people were going to jail. I don't know if they're still in jail now, but people were going to jail just for possession. Not selling, just possession but of marijuana. But anyway, I asked my father one day, I said, why do you look down your nose at people who are out there smoking marijuana and you smoking cigarettes? And a lot of these people say they come out with this stupid answer by smoking and drinking alcohol is legal. I said, so you're going to do all this to your body just because it's legal? And, the sad news is he ended up passing away, and so did my brother, who's younger than me. So I'm saying all that to say, it is a lot of hypocrisy, not only on the government side, but out here in the private sector, too. People want what they want, and if it's legal, it's fine, but illegal, they're against it. Your thoughts?
I mean, it's true. I mean, the whole... What's the phrase that was basically being said a few years ago? I want to say I first heard it about, as there was more and more of the state level legalizations going on of congratulations to drugs for winning the war on drugs. Now, it's a very glib way for what can be a very serious subject. And there are, of course, a lot of other things going on when we talk about the entire idea of illicit drugs, whether it be fentanyl, whether it be, meth, marijuana, or any of these other concerning and disturbing ones like a crocodile, or there's always going to be something new and something messed up happening with that. So not saying that capitulation is by any means the answer, but there's a certain point to question, like, okay, what are the goals that we have had? Because war on drugs, everyone's familiar with that phrase, and it's one of those great kind of chest pounding phrases like, yeah, we've declared war, we will defeat the enemy. And yet, how has that actually necessarily worked out? Has your goals been meeting up with the method you've been achieving them, and have the results actually been there? And I think a lot of people would be thinking, maybe not.
I agree. So, but I know you're running out of time, so I won't hold you. But those are my thoughts on it. And as I said, I hate to see people be so hypocritical about things.
Fair enough here. Well, appreciate the point in the call. You have a good one there.
You too. Bye-bye.
All right, with that, we're going to have to leave it there because we are super out of time here for today. So we'll end up skipping that last segment. But tell you a little bit about what we got coming up for you. As I mentioned, I'm going to be talking more about some of those, like particularly a federal case review of when the death penalty applies for things like the El Paso August 3rd case. There's some interesting, well, frankly, inconsistencies, but more explanations that have been coming out. We'll talk about that with an author of that recent article I've been mentioning, but also more, including coming up off with the El Paso Chamber on the first anniversary, on the occasion of, anyway, of the current president and CEO there, their thoughts and future efforts. But we'll have to leave it there for today. Super out of time here for this show. I want to thank everyone that did tune in, call in, comment, participate in the show. We'll do it again tomorrow, as we do every Monday through Friday, 4 to 6 p.m. So until then, until next time, stay safe out there. Look twice for motorcycles when out on the road, and have a great evening, y'all. We'll see you tomorrow.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
All that road construction on the I-10 westbound is causing heavy delays from Mesa up to Trans Mountain, 20-minute delays. I-10 eastbound Vinton to Red, that's looking a lot better, a 5-minute delay. Slow traffic on the 54 south, McCombs down to Trans Mountain is a 5-minute delay. An accident eastbound Pebble Hills at Ivanhoe, and a crash has just popped up St. Vrain downtown at Overland Avenue. Kerry Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by TurnToSupportsTX.org. Life can take a turn for anyone, and if it has for you, remember that there's so much for you to turn to. Everyone needs supportive people and healthy outlets in their lives, so you don't have to face hard times alone. Visit TurnToSupportsTX.org for the help that's right for you.
In today's Marketers Report, Kate Cronin, Chief Brand Officer of Moderna, weighs in on the speed of audio production.
In this day and age, and particularly at Moderna, where we have new information coming out on a regular basis, being able to feed that information to the audio format makes being nimble and pivoting easy, and that's what I really like about it.
As the #1 audio company, iHeartMedia gives marketers access to the audiences, influencers, insights, and data you need to grow. If you're a marketer, go to iHeartResults.com.
The El Paso Community Foundation supports the causes you feel passionate about here in the Borderland, whether it's education, social services, arts and culture, the environment, health, or economic development. The El Paso Community Foundation has been promoting philanthropy and progress in our hometown region for more than 45 years. Make your mark with us. Start a fund today. For good, for El Paso, forever. Learn more at epcf.org. That's epcf.org.
Portions of the following program were pre-recorded.
Did you know that only 2 in 10 El Paso County students graduate with a bachelor's degree? By supporting Border Youth Athletic Association's mission of educational attainment, you will create a long-lasting impact in our students' lives. Your monthly donation enables 4th through 12th grade students access to after-school programs, providing a safe and healthy environment. BYAA engages and empowers El Paso's future through